In 1914, a driver took a wrong turn. That one mistake started a world war. That world war produced a peace treaty so humiliating, it handed power to a man the world had never heard of. That man drove away the scientists who hated him, and those scientists built the atomic bomb. The weapon that ended the deadliest conflict in human history was set in motion by a confused driver on a street in Sarajevo. This is that story. June 28, 1914, Sarajevo, Bosnia. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, was making an official visit to the city. 6 young nationalists were positioned along his motorcade route, recruited and trained by the Black Hand, a Serbian secret society with ties to military intelligence. Their mission: kill the Archduke. One of them threw a grenade at the car. It bounced off and exploded under the vehicle behind it. 2 officers were injured. Franz Ferdinand was untouched. The conspirators scattered. The plot, it seemed, had failed. After a reception at the town hall, Franz Ferdinand changed his plans. He wanted to visit the wounded officers at the hospital. His driver was not told about the route change. The motorcade turned onto Franz Josef Street, the wrong street. The driver realized his mistake. He stopped. He began reversing. The car stalled. Gavrilo Princip had wandered to the corner in front of a delicatessen. He had given up after his previous failed attempts of the Archduke's assassination. And then he looked up. The Archduke's open car was stopped less than 5 feet from where he stood. Princip drew his pistol. He fired twice. Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie died within the hour. 31 years of consequences had just begun. Here is where most history books move too quickly. The assassination was the trigger, but what turned a regional dispute into a world war was a decision made in secret, 1 week later in Berlin. Austrian officials met privately with Kaiser Wilhelm II and Germany's chancellor. They asked a simple question: if Austria attacked Serbia and Russia stepped in to defend Serbia, would Germany back them? Germany said yes, unconditionally. Historians call this the blank check. Armed with that promise, Austria-Hungary drafted an ultimatum to Serbia designed to be rejected. Germany never reviewed the ultimatum before it was sent. No one tried to slow it down. Within 32 days of the shots in Sarajevo, every major European power was at war. 4 years later, Germany was losing. To keep America out of the war, Germany had pledged not to attack neutral ships. Now desperate, it reversed that pledge. To prepare for America's likely reaction, German Foreign Secretary Arthur Zimmermann sent a secret telegram to Mexico. The offer: if America joined the Allies, Mexico should attack the United States from the south. In return, Germany would help Mexico recover Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. The telegram was intercepted. British intelligence had been reading Germany's secret communications for years, using a code book recovered from the body of a drowned German sailor in the Baltic Sea. The decoded telegram was published in American newspapers on March 1, 1917. 6 weeks later, the United States declared war on Germany. Germany surrendered on November 11, 1918. 8 months later, the peace settlement was signed. The Allied leaders chose the date deliberately, June 28, 1919, exactly 5 years after the shots in Sarajevo. The symmetry was intentional. The war that began with a murder on this date would end on this date in humiliation. The Treaty of Versailles forced Germany to accept sole responsibility for the war. Reparations were set at $33 billion. Germany lost its colonies, 13% of its territory, and most of its military. The new German democratic government, the Weimar Republic, was forced to sign terms it had no part in shaping. Germans called it a diktat, a dictated peace. For a decade, Germany endured. Then came 1929. The Wall Street crash wiped out the American investments that had been holding the German economy together. Within 3 years, German unemployment reached 30%. 6 million people were out of work. The government could not function. Political extremes thrived. And the one politician who had made his entire career out of rage at Versailles now had the audience he had always needed. In the election of September 1930, the Nazi Party went from being a fringe movement with less than 3% of the vote to Germany's second-largest party. On January 30th, 1933, Adolf Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany. Within weeks of taking power, Hitler signed a new law removing Jewish academics from German universities. 25% of German physicists lost their positions. Among them were 11 past or future Nobel Prize winners. The science departments of some of the world's leading universities emptied almost immediately. Most of those scientists left. Many came to Britain. Many came to the United States. Hitler had just expelled, from one of the most scientifically advanced nations on Earth, the people best positioned to understand what atomic physics was becoming. He did not know what he had done, but the consequences were already in motion. Among those who fled was Leo Szilard, a Hungarian Jewish physicist who had already conceived of something extraordinary, a nuclear chain reaction. The idea that splitting one atom could trigger a cascade that would release energy on a scale previously unimagined. He came to the United States. So did Hans Bethe, who would lead the theoretical division of the Manhattan Project, and Enrico Fermi, whose Jewish wife had made staying in Italy too dangerous, and Otto Frisch and Rudolf Peierls, who together wrote the scientific memo that proved an atomic bomb could be built small enough to fit on an airplane. Each of them had been driven from Europe by the politics Hitler set in motion. Each of them would appear on the roster of the Manhattan Project. In 1939, Szilard grew alarmed. If he had conceived the nuclear chain reaction, Germany's physicists might have too. He feared Nazi Germany was pursuing a bomb. He drafted a letter to President Franklin Roosevelt. Then he went to Albert Einstein, the most recognizable scientist in the world, a German Jewish refugee living in New Jersey, and asked him to sign it. The letter warned that nuclear fission could be weaponized, that bombs of extraordinary destructive power were now physically possible. Roosevelt formed an advisory committee. That committee became the Manhattan Project. The letter that initiated the atomic bomb program was written and signed by refugees whom Hitler had expelled from Europe. On the other side of the world, a separate crisis was building. Japan had been fighting a war of conquest across Asia since 1937. Its military expansion consumed enormous quantities of oil, and roughly 80% of Japan's oil came from one place, the United States. In the summer of 1941, after Japan seized airfields in Indochina, President Roosevelt froze all Japanese assets and cut off oil exports. Japan had, by military estimates, less than 2 years of fuel reserves remaining. Their conclusion was brutal and simple. If diplomacy failed, they would take the oil by force. To do that without interference from the American Pacific Fleet, they would have to destroy that fleet first. On December 7, 1941, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. 2,400 Americans were killed. The next day, the United States declared war on Japan. 4 days after that, Germany declared war on the United States. America was now in the war on both sides of the world. In the Pacific, American forces began fighting island by island toward Japan. But Japan's military culture placed fierce value on fighting to the last. Every island battle made one thing terrifyingly clear: a ground invasion of Japan would be catastrophic. Military planners estimated between 250,000 and 1 million American casualties. There had to be another way. Meanwhile, in a series of secret facilities scattered across the United States, the scientists that Hitler had expelled were nearly finished with their work. The Manhattan Project employed more than 130,000 people across dozens of secret sites. Its scientific director was J. Robert Oppenheimer. Its core was built from the scientists Hitler had expelled. On July 16, 1945, at a test site in the New Mexico desert, the world's first nuclear device was detonated. The explosion was equivalent to 21,000 tons of conventional explosive. The light was visible 200 miles away. The shockwave knocked observers to the ground. Oppenheimer watched the blast and later recalled a line from Hindu scripture: "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." Germany had surrendered 2 months earlier. The bomb Hitler had accidentally helped build would not be used on him. It would be used on Japan. Before the atomic bomb was ready, American forces had already been trying to break Japan through conventional means. On the night of March 9, 1945, 279 bombers flew over Tokyo. The firestorm that followed killed an estimated 100,000 civilians in a single night. 67 Japanese cities were bombed over the following months. 350,000 civilians died. Japan did not surrender. A committee was convened to select targets for the atomic bomb. The criteria: large cities with military significance, not yet heavily damaged, so the scale of the new weapon would be clearly visible. Kyoto, Japan's ancient cultural capital, was at the top of the list. Secretary of War Henry Stimson personally appealed to President Truman to remove it. Kyoto was spared. Nagasaki was added in its place. August 6, 1945, 8:15 in the morning, a B-29 superfortress named the Enola Gay, after the pilot's mother, released a uranium bomb over the city of Hiroshima. The bomb detonated 1,900 feet above the ground. The immediate blast and heat killed between 70,000 and 80,000 people. By the end of the year, the death toll from injuries and radiation had risen to between 90,000 and 166,000. Hiroshima had been selected partly because it had been preserved from conventional bombing. That preservation was deliberate. Planners wanted the scale of the new weapon to be seen clearly. Japan did not surrender. 3 days later, a second bomb was dropped on Nagasaki. The primary target that day was Kokura, but cloud cover blocked the view. The crew diverted to the secondary target. The plutonium bomb killed an estimated 40,000 to 80,000 people immediately. On August 15, 1945, Emperor Hirohito announced Japan's unconditional surrender. The war was over. 31 years had passed since a driver took the wrong turn on Franz Joseph Street in Sarajevo. 31 years of war, a humiliating peace, a market crash, a purge, a letter written by refugees, an oil embargo, and 2 cities reduced to ash. World War II was over. The atomic age had begun. Every event in this chain was a choice, or a mistake, or both. A driver missed a turn. A government issued a guarantee without thinking it through. A telegram was decoded using a dead man's codebook. A treaty was written to humiliate rather than settle. A market crashed. A paranoid ideologue signed a law that emptied his country's universities. And the people he drove out built the weapon that ended the war he started. History is not a series of inevitabilities. It is a chain of decisions, most of them made by people who could not see where they were going. If this story surprised you, there are plenty more on this channel. Like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And stay for the short. We saved the strangest part for last.